There's no mirrors on the ceiling, and my cell's as cold as ice. We're all just prisoners here of our own device. Relax, said the warden, we are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, you can never leave. Welcome to the hotel in Colorado. What a nice surprise. Bring your alibi. Hi, I'm Sean. Welcome to this channel, Club Fed. Today I'm going to give you some federal prison news about the coronavirus that's going on in the federal prisons. So a lot of my viewers out there are facing prison, waiting to get sentenced. They've been indicted. So what happens when you finally do go to prison, they are quarantining you for 2 weeks. So you have to do 2 weeks in the shoe, in the hole. Sometimes it's a quarantine range, depending on where you go. If you're going to a camp or a low, I'm told by some people that work in the prison, they have special ranges. It's not necessarily the shoe, but although some prisons are using the shoe, and for 2 weeks you get nothing. You're lucky if you get a book to read. You're lucky if they take you to a shower once a week. You're not going to get a phone. I'm hearing you're not going to even get your regular mail, let alone emails. It's really tough for the first 2 weeks. After you get out of that, I know some of the camps have opened up part of their programs. I know RDAP's going in most federal camps. I don't know if RDAP's working in the mediums and the lows, but the camps are opening up because I spoke to the RDAP coordinator at Florence FCI satellite camp where I did 52 months for wire fraud. And guys, I've been out of prison about 14 months. It's February 13th, the Saturday today. I'm going to take you over to the BOP website right now, and we're going to give you some updates on what's going on with this virus and the prisoners. So let's scroll down here. I want to tell you. So right now, it says the BOP has 123,801 federal inmates in their institutions. It says they have about 36,000 staff members, and there's been 1,606 federal inmates and 1,683 BOP staff who have been confirmed positive test results for the COVID-19 nationwide. Currently, 45,252 inmates and 4,631 staff have recovered. There have been 221 federal inmate deaths and 4 BOP staff member deaths attributed to COVID-19 disease. Of the inmate deaths, 4 occurred while on home confinement. So even though you got out of the prison, they still died. It's telling me here how many people tested positive. I'm on the BOP.GOV website, guys. And if you've already been determined what prison you're going to, or maybe you know somebody that's at one of these prisons, right on their homepage, go to their homepage, and it comes up the first box there. It says COVID-19. You click that. It says here they're starting to give the vaccine to inmates. So it says the total doses distributed are 43,450. The total doses administered are 46,475. Now that doesn't make sense. So they distributed 43,000, but they administered 46,000? Well, how do you administer more doses than you distributed? Leave it to the feds. I think that just doesn't sound right. Anyways, let's check out and see what's going on. News stories under the federal prison, because it lists a whole bunch of inmates that died and what happened behind it. So I'm just going to go back like the first 2 weeks of this month here. Let's start with the first one. Inmate death at FMC Devens. So I did a interview with a guy named John Wynn. I think that's titled 3 Days to Surrender. And he's in now. He's probably been in, let's see, about 9 or 10 or 11 days now. So when he gets out, he's going to send me an email. We're going to keep in touch. I got to know him on the phone a lot. I helped him out with this case. He had to go before the judge, and I helped him with the not the speech, but what he was going to say to the judge. His personal narrative. And I got videos on that. And by the way, guys, if you could subscribe and like the channel and share it and all that. I got over 900 subscribers now. I'm coming up on 1,000, so I'm going to get busy here. I want to start trying to do videos every day and make this a regular thing. And I think one of the weekly shows I'll do is the BOP News. So let's take a look over here at what's going on with these inmates who died in federal prison. I'm just going to go for like the first 10 guys. That's basically how many have died so far this month. So John's at FMC Devens. FMC stands for Federal Medical, Federal Medical. The C is, well, I don't know what the C means. Federal Corrections. And so anyways, it's a medical facility is what it is. So whenever it says MC or MCC, those are medical correction facilities. And he's at a camp that's next to it. So in a big federal medical center, you'll have all the guys from the USP, the mediums, the lows. Everybody's all mixed together. You got your terrorists and your rapists and your drug addicts, your drug dealers, and you got your child molesters, and they're all thrown in one big building. And these are places people pretty much, you go in there, not a lot of people come out alive. A lot of them are doing long sentences, and they're going to die in there, and they've got really severe medical conditions. So and the feds they're not that nice. They don't care if you're 80 years old and you're in a wheelchair and you got one leg and one lung. If they want you there, you're doing time. It's not like state, but although now there's a compassionate release, and there's this CARES Act and stuff, and it's starting to happen, but it's got a long way to go. So let's see this guy here, inmate Gerard LaFortune, tested positive for the COVID at the medical center in Devens Air, Massachusetts. He was immediately placed in medical isolation. That was on December 26th. On Monday, January 18th, in accordance with Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and prevention guidelines, Mr. LaFortune was converted to a status of recovered following the completion of medical isolation and presenting with no symptoms. So between Christmas and January 18th, he recovered, no symptoms. But then on Wednesday, February 10th, just a few days ago, Mr. LaFortune, who had long-term pre-existing medical conditions, which the CDC lists as risk factors for developing more severe COVID-19 disease, was pronounced deceased. So this guy recovers, and then a month later he dies. Let's see who he is. Mr. LaFortune was a 63-year-old male who was sentenced in the District of Massachusetts to a 420-month sentence. Wow, 420 months. That's a lifetime. For transportation and attempted transportation of child pornography, receipt of child pornography, possession of child pornography, and publishing notice or advertisement for child pornography. Oh, God. Well, you know what? I have no sympathy for this guy. We don't. I'm going on to the next guy. I almost want to say I'm glad he's dead, but this is YouTube, and they'll take my channel away if I say too much. But another one, hope he meets the right maker. We'll just leave it at that. Here's a death app, FCI Butner 2. It's a medium. So this was on Wednesday too. Let's see what this guy. I hope this is a better criminal. Wednesday, January 13th, inmate Abdul Aziz Rashid Muhammad. That's his whole name. Abdul Aziz Rashid Muhammad. He tested positive. He was placed in medical isolation at the Federal Correctional Institution Butner 2 in Butner, North Carolina. So it was at a medium. On Monday, January 18th, Mr. Muhammad was transported to a local hospital for treatment and further evaluation of respiratory distress and hypoxia. Mr. Muhammad's condition worsened, and he was placed on a ventilator. On Tuesday, February 9th, Mr. Mohammed, who had long-term pre-existing medical conditions, again with the pre-existing, which the CDC lists as risk factors for developing more severe COVID-19 disease, was pronounced deceased by the hospital staff. Let's see what this guy did. So he was a 64-year-old male who was sentenced in the Eastern District of Kentucky to a 327-month sentence for conspiracy to rob an FDIC-insured bank and aiding and abetting in an armed bank robbery. He had been in custody at the FCI Butner since June 17th, 2020. Well, he wasn't getting out. He was 64 when he went in, and he had to do 327 months. I don't have a calculator, but divide that by 12. That's a lot of years. But he was a better criminal. Okay? Armed bank robbery, and he didn't kill anybody. So, that's a good thing. God. How many years is 327 months? Well, 120 months is a year. 120 months is 10 years. So, what's that, 30 years? 25, 30 years? And he was 64 when he went in. I don't know if he was getting out. But that's a much better criminal than that first one. So, I'm sorry that he died. And I know what you were thinking when you first read his name there, Abdul Aziz Rashid Mohammed. But it was armed bank robbery. Nothing else, guys. Let's check the next one. Here's one at Forest City. It's another medium. And this was just a couple days ago. Let's see what this guy did. Chester Ray Stitz, Jr. tested positive on Wednesday, December 23rd. He was at Forest City in Arkansas. Was immediately placed in medical isolation. On Sunday, January 31st, Mr. Stitz was evaluated by medical staff for nausea and weakness and was subsequently transported to a local hospital. So they took him out of the medical facility and took him to a hospital. These other guys stayed there. So they wanted further treatment and evaluation. On Saturday, February 6th, his condition worsened. He was placed on a ventilator. When you get on those ventilators, guys... On Tuesday, just a few days ago, February 9th, he died. Let's see who he was. He was a 55-year-old black male who was sentenced in the Eastern District of Texas to a 156-month sentence for possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine. He has been in custody since January 3rd, 2018. So he may have got out alive had he not died. 156-month sentence. Is that about 12 years, maybe? 13 years. He'd already done a couple. 10 years minus his good time. 8 years. He probably could have got RDAP. Got 7. He could have probably got out in 7 years with the First Step Act and some programs. Maybe he could have got out in 5 or 6 years. He was 55 when he went in. He could have got out around 60 or 61 years old, 62 years old. He could have made it. So we'll say a prayer for you, Chester Ray Stitz. He could have been one of the good guys. Transportation of meth, man, like 13 years. Let's check out the next guy. FCI Terahate, if I'm saying that right. Another person who died this week. And his name is Joseph Lee Foltz. Tested positive for the corona. Terre Haute is in Indiana. So he was in medical isolation on January 11th. On the 25th of January, he was converted to a status of recovered. Oh, so he recovered quick. He caught it on the 11th. By the 25th of January, he was recovered following the completion of medical isolation and presenting with no symptoms. Now, a couple weeks later, February 7th, he was found unresponsive in his cell, and responding staff immediately initiated life-saving measures. Sure, they did. Staff requested emergency medical services, EMS, and life-saving efforts continued. When they say the staff tried their life-saving efforts, I bet they went and got on their radio, and they're probably not going to touch the inmate because they know he's already in some kind of quarantine area. Even though he recovered, the staff's not going to touch him. They're not going to give him, any kind of medical. I mean, they're just going to call on the radio. But that's the way they worded here. Subsequently, on the same day, Mr. Foltz, who had long-term pre-existing medical conditions, here we go with the pre-existing medical conditions again, he suffered more severe developing risk factors. He was pronounced deceased. So he died this last Monday. Let's find out who he was. He was a 52-year-old male sentenced out of Southern District of Iowa to a 324-month sentence for sexual exploitation of children. Oh, no. He had been in custody since January 20. He had just gotten there, too. 52-year-old. You know what? Next guy. This subject I'm so glad I was at a camp. They don't allow child molesters at a camp. So far, there's 2 of these guys that died. Sometimes, there is a God, and we will just leave it at that. Let me check the next. Here's an inmate who died at MDC Brooklyn. It's another medical facility. Let's find out about this guy. He died. Looks like he died on Monday. So, same thing here. January 25th, he tested positive. He was immediately placed in medical isolation. So soon, I guess, guys, when they do test the inmates, if you're tested positive, they take you to that SHU quickly. So that was on January 25th. On February 5th, he was medically assessed after being found incoherent and displaying seizure-like movement. While being medically assessed, he became unresponsive, and staff immediately initiated life-saving measures. I mean, they got on the radio. Staff requested emergency medical services, life-saving efforts, blah, blah, blah. Oh, they transported him to a local hospital. On the same day, Mr. Segura, he died. Let's find out who he was. He was a 46-year-old male who arrived at MDC Brooklyn on March 2nd, 2016, under pretrial status after being indicted for robbery. He was on pretrial. He'd been indicted, and they put him in MDC Brooklyn. MDC Brooklyn is an administrative security facility that currently houses 1,123 offenders. I got to look into MDC. Maybe that's kind of like a halfway house, or could be because he was on pretrial. So we don't know how much time he was going to get. Indicted for robbery, 46 years old. Could have got 10 years or less, probably, for that. We don't know. But he's gone now. Let's check maybe 1 more or 2 more here. I thought I saw somebody from my prison who died. Death at Gilmore. The BOP is hiring 2 guys. I got a little thing here. Here we go. FCI Florence Satellite Camp. The first of the month, this guy died. Let's see if I knew him. So I got out of there on July 30th, 2019, and I did 6 months in the halfway house, and I've been on probation a little over a year now, so I may have known him. So on Saturday, January 10th, inmate Toribio or Nils Vasquez. Toribio, well, we always use last names. We didn't, unless they're your friend, you knew their first name, but last names are kind of commonly used. Vasquez. I've heard that name, Vasquez, but it's a common name. Let's see. He tested positive on January 10th at the Florence Satellite Camp in Florence, Colorado. He was placed in medical isolation. So then they put him in the SHU. On January 11th, Vasquez was transported to a local hospital. They'll do that with campers. They'll take us to the hospital a lot. So then he gets to the hospital, and he left on January 11th, and on the 29th, his condition worsened. He was pronounced deceased. So he got to spend about 2 weeks in the hospital, maybe. Let's find out who he was. Mr. Vasquez was a 79-year-old male who was sentenced in the District of Minnesota to a 120-month sentence for conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine. He had been in custody since 2018. So I don't really know if I knew him or not. Could have. So he's 79 years old. He gets a 120-month sentence. So that's 10 years. So see, guys, it doesn't matter how old you are. He's 79 years old. They give him a 10-month sentence. So it's to distribute meth. That's an acceptable crime to me, guys. Not the sentence. But, you know, there's certain criminals. I mean, if you killed your family and ate your family, I don't want nothing to do with you. If you raped women and hit women and beat women, I don't want nothing to do with you. If you had anything to do with children, I don't want nothing to do with you. But if you distributed meth, yeah, that's a good crime. I don't mean it's a good crime, but I mean you're a decent. You can become a better person after that crime. So, anyways, he 10 years. So he could have. We have RDAP there, which I'm sure he qualified for that. He would got a year off, 6 months halfway house, probably 2 months good time. So he could have got out of there in 7 years, and with the first step back, he takes a few extra programs, 6 years maybe. He's 79 years old. He'd been in there since 18. He was probably going to get out in 3 more years. He's 79 now, so he'd have been about 82 when he got out. He could have had a few years, but now he's gone. He's gone, and so I'm going to leave it at that with the news about this coronavirus. I hope that if you guys are going to prison and you watch my videos, you know I got lots of resources underneath on my description. Look on the description, and it says read more. It opens up, so I got all kinds of links, how to get an RDAP for free. The letters, how to write a letter to the judge, how to have character reference letters written by your family and friends, what they should say, what they shouldn't say, how to send money to an inmate, how to get cheaper phone calls when you're an inmate using Google Voice and other ones, you know, how to use the CORRLINKS app. So when people email you, you can go right to your phone. There's just all kinds of resources there. So please read it. Please subscribe to my channel, and ring that bell, the notification for my next message. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.